Hello again, I'm Graham and welcome back to my 1980s layout Wood Hill Park. Today, in a rather windy loft, I'm going to start my station revamp. The original station is still going to stay because it's just a platform that's made from traditional Hornby but enhanced, and whatever I rip out and replace will look pretty much the same. So it's just an enhancement of what's already there. I use scale scenes papers to do the edges of the platform, just to improve the old fashioned Hornby edges. Excuse me. It's a little bit cold up here as well this morning, hence my voice being a bit broken up. But yeah, I use these scale scene papers for the edging, and I thought they looked pretty good. But in the past, when I came to gravel or ballast the tracks, I sprayed IPA on it for the glue to filter through the ballast, and that affected the print on the paper and made the paper change colour, which I've never addressed and looks rather bad if you look closely. It ruined it really. But the original result was really good, so I'm going to do the same again, but what I've done is lacquered the paper so it shouldn't be able to be attacked by anything, and I've got no plans to spray any IPA near it this time either, because the track's already ballasted. So I'm going to go with the same theme but do a lot more to the actual platform itself to vary the surfaces, add lights and other detail. So it's just a case of stripping it all down now and going to work on it. So I'm taking the old edging off, exposing the old Hornby style platform, but I could rip all this out and put a whole new platform in and made of wood or whatever, but at the end of the day it's just a building block, and these are the right height. They sit on cork the same height as the rails, and they've been adequate up until now. It's just they don't look very real, and the ends I have modified in the past and made some of them straight, and I may do the same with the ends that taper as well, because they do look better if they're modified. So all I'm doing is adding the scale scenes paper back. That piece over there, I don't know if the camera is pointing in it. Let's have a look. This piece here is just me starting to renew it, just to see whether I was happy with it still, and renewing it with the scale scenes papers with the stone edging still looks very good to me. It's just the actual platforms themselves with the holes in for the canopies, which I'm not going to use no longer. I'm going to use a few of the holes to put lights in, and then fill the others and fill some of the gaps between the platforms, varying the colours and stuff and making it look like it's been patched up over the years, because that's pretty much what platforms look like, very random and cracked up and different patches from years of sort of repairs. So I'm cleaning the platforms down at the moment. I've vacuumed them, brushed them, and I'm taking the old platform edging off, as I said, and I'm washing the paintwork down. And to be honest, the paintwork is fine. All it needs is just enhancements of different colours and patches, like I was saying. So I'm going to stick with this, because I think if I started from scratch again, I've just got to build a very similar thing to what you can see here. So onward and upward with the cleaning process, getting ready for drilling holes here and there to put lights in and a bit of filling. I've pretty much finished washing and cleaning the platform surfaces down. I'm just in the process of drying them off a bit. Now, as I've said, I could carry on and just repaint them all, but that sort of defeats the object, because I want them to look rough and worn, and that's what they're going to look like. They'll look quite random. But because I'm not going to have these silly Hornby canopies no more, I want to fill in these holes. So I'll fill these in with some epoxy glue, and the gaps between them, especially if they're big like this, I'll be filling them as well. But I will do a rough filling job, so it looks like a join in the platform that's been cemented. You know, certain bits like that I will repaint. I'll just stipple them with the same colour you can see the platform is, but I'll do random sort of stippling here and there, and things like these. I think they're supposed to be manhole covers, what were moulded into the platforms years ago. Look rather rubbish, so I should probably have a go at filling most of those and giving them sort of random patches to sort of blend them in. That's what I'm after, is sort of a random sort of worn out station look. And then once I've done all that, I'll add the edging again. The actual brickwork below the station, below the edge of the platform, is just cardboard, which I lacquered years ago, which seems to have stood the test of time, and it sort of made the platform look more in keeping scale wise. So I'll be keeping this, but I might sort of try and enhance it, try and lose some of the joins that you might see, and generally improving stuff. Yeah, the platform edging is just Metcalf, the usual stuff, but you can just buy the platforms, and I just use bits from the kit just to enhance the plastic platforms that Hornby used to make. It's probably a dear way of doing the platforms using Hornby, but I had all these from years ago, and it was a shame to just get rid of them, as they will make, and they seem to be making, quite a good base to actually work from. Right, that's the two-part epoxy mixed up and put into place. Just need to wait for 5 minutes plus for that to go off, and then I can use a knife to cut it level with the platform in the case of the manholes that I've filled, and play about with the crack in the platform, maybe leaving it a little bit proud, just to give it a look like somebody's filled the gap for real, you know, in real life. Now with a real nice sharp knife, a modeller's knife I use, but you could use just an ordinary razor blade really, just level with a platform, just cut the epoxy resin through. You do it before the epoxy resin gets too hard, but it's hard enough that you don't actually dislodge it from what you filled, so it's still reasonably soft, and you can literally carve it away, and it's now pretty flat, and that's filled, and I could finish that with a bit of fine emery, or I could leave it like that as a sort of a bit of a bodged repair on the platform that there was many of, and there still is these days. I may fill some and rub them down so you can't see them, just so they look random rather than, at the moment they will be spaced evenly because of them being Hornby platforms. Everything is sort of uniform and not random, and the hole for the canopy that I've blocked just the same way. Just that's it. Just dab a bit of paint over it later on. As for the gap I filled, it's quite raised, but in some ways I quite like that. It's not too high, so I may on purpose leave it like that, and once I've got my paints out I'll enhance that a bit with a bit of a black vallejo, just to look like it's a tar joint that's a bit pronounced. So you can rub down what you want and you can keep what you want, just to enhance the platform really. So I'm going to carry on doing these. So a bit of filling to do. And if they haven't completely filled, there's the odd random indent, and that's no problem either, because you could leave that. It's just an imperfection in the pavement or tarmac. As that one, it's not completely filled, there's a tiny little lump missing, but that'll just add to the roughness and randomness of the platform. One thing I also need to remember is to make sure where the paper the scale seams paper is going to go is level, so if there is any epoxy, that does need to be totally flattened to allow the paper to stick along there nice and neatly and not be raised, so I have to account for that. But other than that, the platform can be as lumpy and as random as I like, so that's what I intend to do. Some of the old canopy holes, like this one here, I'm going to leave intact, and I propose to drill a hole, put this tube down through the board and level with the top of the platform, and I'll be adding lights that I bought from Layouts for You, and I bought them at different shows I've been at, and I'm looking forward to adding these lights, and the wires will just hopefully slip down through the tubes, and I'll add the resistors on at some point and wire them up underneath. So where there isn't holes in the right place, I'll be drilling them, but other holes I will just use the old holes for the canopies that Hornby used to have in their platforms. But these lamps are pretty good, and they do remind me of the lamps that were on stations when I was a kid in my area, sort of the T-shaped lamps. They used to have the name of the station sort of etched on the glass as well, years ago as well. But these ones, obviously you don't want to stick a label over it because you'll lose the light or do anything like that, but I'll probably put signage on the post telling you what station it is. But that's all for the future, that's all detailing, and I must admit that's the bit I'm looking forward to. But for now I've got to get the platforms right. Right, my plan seemed to work. Now I've tried this out, but they'll be coming out again as I need to carry on with the rest of the platform. But the idea is sound, and that's the way I'm going to add them. I'm now finished filling and trimming all the platforms, so there's mess everywhere from scraping with a blade all the aerotite down flat, so all the holes and impressions and gaps and that I want to fill are filled now and trimmed. So it's just a case of getting a vacuum cleaner, vacuuming this up, and then here and there getting paintbrush and a sponge and paint out, touching up the platforms, and then it's on to putting the edging in place. improvements to the station continue to progress. The guys are removing the old steam age fencing that's fallen to bits, and in so doing improving the look, as there's going to be a new brick wall put into this point, so they're preparing the foundations and taking the fencing away, which will hopefully make it look a less Hornby looking platform. Once I finish with it, hopefully it will look nothing like a Hornby platform, but still does a good job as a great base to work from. The rest of the station is starting to take shape as it's being modernised. Some of the old buildings are being kept. The Art Deco buildings will remain, but there's going to be sort of modern 1980s structures put in place, including the new lights, as you can see, which are in temporary and will be wired up in time. And there's engineers trained sort of helping them out, and the guys are busy at work with the improvements. As it worked well with the level crossing, I've also added some of my homemade anti-trespass rubber matting, but really does look like wooden triangular fence that they used to use to stop you walking off the platforms, as well as other uses as well. Looking down from above maybe don't look quite as convincing, but if you look at the scale height, they do look quite good. So they're on, or they're going to be on all platform ends. I've decided to keep the taper ends to the platforms, as it would be probably too difficult to modify them without sort of ruining the platform next to it. But they also allow the coaches, which is a bit non-scale really, able to pass by them without hitting the side of the coach. So I am keeping those, but as you can see, there are some that I modified when I first made the station, that I just took a straight and then cut it about and bent it down, and they look quite effective. Before I put the wall into place, I've constructed it out of plasticard and brick plasticard, which is already painted and sort of weathered, but I don't really want to mess it up, and I'm not very good at tagging, you might say, but we do need some graffiti on a wall like this, so I've been practicing rather than upsetting, making a mess of that, and this is what I've come up with, just playing about with on a bit. And one of the problems I've had with graffiti is that I don't seem to be very good with a small paintbrush doing it. So what I've done is bought some acrylic paint pens. I've used these elsewhere on the layout, they're pretty handy, but they allow you to write something like this in paint, and I think this is the way to go. So all my graffiti will be wrote with these paint pens, I think, in the future, and I'm going to have a practice, and then I'll have a go at doing this wall. Well, I had a go at my bit of graffiti. I practiced a bit, and hopefully get something that looks respectable, even though it was hated and made everything look run down in the 80s. It is still part of the 80s, and as much as I like a clean, nice brick wall, it does need a bit of messing up, you might say, with graffiti. But it's just my little go at it, my attempt. I think the hardest thing was not just writing it, it's actually coming up with phrases, you know, of the time and the era. But I've had a bit of a go at it, and in a scruffy sort of way it looks quite good, I think. Certainly improvement over what used to be there. I've just got to do the coping stone on top of the wall, but other than that, the wall's done. Well, the wall's up. The only trouble is, overnight, when nobody was here, the vandals had a go at the wall, and the graffiti artists have been out. So you got people looking at the wall, scratching their head, and they've called the police. But there's not a lot the police can do, because this sort of thing's going on all the time. And it's a nice new wall, and somebody couldn't resist. As well as painting the graffiti on the wall, I also use these paint pens to paint figures, and I've had fairly good results. I just painted the flesh tones with a brush, but then after that I used the water-based acrylics pens, and the pens I used they've got a fine nib on them, and I reckon they've done a pretty good job. I just need to improve my selection of pens, as I haven't really got a big amount of colours, but I don't know if you can see clearly, and the camera goes in too far, it focuses on the logo behind. But if I pick on a figure standing on its own, maybe, no, the camera looks at the background, but I can assure you they come out pretty good, really. As with a brush it can be a little bit more fiddly, and it could be a good method if you want to try it. I think it's pretty good, and when you're painting multiple figures it's quite quick as well, so might be worth giving it a go. The figures are from scale figures, and you can get them in sort of crowd scenes and that, and this was just their crowd scene, which is sort of extra value. I should add that when I'm painting it with the pen, the acrylic pens, sometimes the point is a bit too big to get under, say, their armpits and stuff, so I just use a cocktail stick, the standard cocktail stick, to move the paint around. So just extra paint, just use the point of a cocktail stick just to get between their arms and legs and that, where you can't get the point of the pen in. But I find it quite effective, as I said. I know Richard of Everard Junction had a go at using them for his yellow banding, so they've got multiple uses and come in quite handy. The lines you see in front of you are by Scale Model Scenery, and they're just stick-on lines, but it could be a way to go in future myself. They're good for other jobs as well, because I even painted the edge of the platforms. As along here they were grey, so just to carry on the white line from the top of the platform on the scale scenes paper, I then just went along here with a paint pen. They're sort of more accurate, really, in some ways than a brush. So I've used them in many different places, and because they're water-based paints, they're no problem if you get them on anything. I don't think I could have done as neat a job as this using a brush, so I'm going to stick with using paint pens, definitely for graffiti anyway. I would just like to add that I bought this brand new DVT to go with my class 87 to run a sort of a pull push formation. It wasn't a bad buy, but on trying to take the body apart, I've had a problem that I've had before with the HSTs, is that the insert just starts spinning round in the moulding for the screw, and you can't get it apart. So they've either got glue on the insert, or they've not glued the insert in properly, and it makes it extremely difficult to get apart without breaking the model. And I think that's disgusting, really. for a brand new model, and you can't even sort of take it apart without issues. As I say, in the past I had issues with my HSTs doing the same thing, and that's really nerve-wracking when you've got over £200 loco that you're trying to get apart just because the inserts aren't stuck in properly. So they've gone and done it again. So if you look at, if I zoom in, you'll see the insert is still on the end of the screw. And I'm now, after much nervous, painstaking work at trying to get it apart, got to glue the insert back in properly so it don't turn around when you put the screw in place. Something they should have done, and I shouldn't be doing this to a brand new model. So, not really happy with this. Yeah, Hornby's quality is still not great here and there, but never mind, I'll carry on and put a DCC chip in this, and I look forward to it running on the layout in a bit. I've been looking around for a 8-pin DCC chip to put in it, and I remembered I've got a class 47 Hornby sound chip that also failed on me and no longer produces any sound for no reason at all. It just stopped working. So I'm adding one failure to another, really. Maybe 2 failures will make a good model. So I should put this substandard DCC chip in place, as it only has to run the lights, nothing else. Hopefully we'll get a good model out of the two. After the initial problems, the DBT is working fine, running down the layout with the 87. Bit on the wrong track, going the wrong way. So I'll soon turn that down, get it running the right way eventually. Just trying it out, and it seems to run fine. One issue with the couplings, but I put right. Other than that, it's pushing 9 coaches, including the DBT, being pushed round by the 87. And no issues. Now I sorted a couple of couplings out. They're all magnetic Hunt couplings. I just bought one of these airbrushes that is just battery operated, and they can be used for makeup and cake decorating and whatever. And I saw Pete Waterman using it on Making Tracks 3, and I thought, what a brilliant tool. It allows you to weather, providing it's quite well watered down, and it allows you to weather with just water paints, really, like acrylic paints and stuff. I wouldn't really use it with enamels, but it's great for around the layout. And I've been having a go at weathering the footbridge and a bit of the platform here and there. So I'm going to carry on a little bit longer weathering. It's a good tool. Just dirtying up the platform and the bridges. Just simulating trains going through for years, adding grime to the platforms and everything else, as it looks too pristine. just a mixture of various acrylic paints. Just to give a nice grotty colour really. I'm going to carry on doing that off camera, but it's starting to look quite realistic with this, so I should carry on as I said. Well, I've finished spraying and I've now got the trains running again after cleaning the tracks. Didn't need a lot of cleaning as it's acrylic, so it come off very easily with a liquid cleaner. The station's looking quite grotty, but that's the sort of effect I was looking for. In the 1980s things were pretty filthy, including all the brickwork and the stations. There were sort of diesel stains everywhere from diesel smoke, and I wanted to sort of portray a bit of a grotty station, so Model Part needs a bit of an update, and sort of depicts the middle of the 1980s really, when things were sort of a bit run down. The end of the BR era really. I should continue to let trains go round just in case there's anything on the rails. I'll wear it off, which there shouldn't be because I've wiped them. And just noticed the gap underneath the footbridge. The column needs a bit of something to eradicate that gap. So that's what you find when you get the camera out. You notice more and more that needs putting right. The footbridge is just an old triangle footbridge, just adapted. I was thinking of adding a roof and sides and windows to it in the future, but just for now, as it will be a project all on its own, I've just clad it a bit in brickwork and weathered it, as well as obviously cutting it about a bit. I think it gives a nice grotty 80s concrete footbridge look to the station, so I'm very pleased with that at the moment, but in the future I may be enhancing it. I've also got this Class 87 from TMC, and it was weathered by them, and a fair price, as well as getting the DVT to add to the other Class 87 so I can do a push-pull with it. I got these for my birthday in February, just gone, so they're welcome additions and they look pretty good on layout. That's just about it for this one. I'll be back when I've made a bit more progress, as I want to do some more signage and detailing, and there will be more work probably done on the station and the car park, and I've also got the pavement to update as well, as I want to finish the car park by improving the pavement. Also, I've been working on my bridge going over and down to the station, as that needed a bit of a revamp, so I've repainted that. I'll be working on the lighting on the station, you know, the lamps, and lighting the station up and other bits and pieces. So in my next one it's likely to be about finishing off the station. Plus I've still got some of the gantries to finish off for the electrification. They were sort of getting a little bit boring making one after another, so I diverted to this project instead, but I've still got some of them to put in, so who knows, the next update may be to do with them or the continuation of the station. So all it remains for me to say is thanks very much for watching, keep subscribing, and thanks for subscribing, it's free, you know, and I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.